Rebirth, I have a spiritual spring. Chapter 1, full of ideals, skinny of reality. Chapter 1, full of ideals and skinny reality. In the midsummer of September, the south is still as hot as an outdoor steam room during the day, but there are already signs of autumn in the north. In the bustling Beijing station, people are coming and going, pedestrians are walking in a hurry, and Zhang Wanwan is dragging a large suitcase. Bai Shan was also carrying an oversized travel bag, which was full of luggage she brought from her hometown in the south. She almost couldn't hold her breath while squeezing the subway with these things. When she trudged back to the school dormitory, her whole body collapsed to the ground. Before she could calm down, the door to the dormitory was pushed open again, and roommates Yan Qian and Zhang Xiyu came in carrying their things, arm in arm, talking and laughing, and almost tripped over Zhang Wanwan's luggage. Yan Qian's eyes widened and she asked vaguely with a lollipop in her mouth, "Smelly girl, have you moved your family to our dormitory?" Zhang Xiyu roughly rummaged through the things on the floor and tooted, "Every senior year moves things back, but it would be better for you to do it the other way around. Do you think our dormitory is not crowded enough?" Faced with the squeeze from her two roommates, Zhang Wanwan begged for mercy and said coquettishly, "Oh, just let me stay for 2 days, and I will move out when I find a suitable house. I will never cause any trouble to you, I swear." Yan Qian raised her eyebrows and stopped eating the lollipop. She sat down next to Zhang Wanwan and asked, "Tell me the truth, are you going to go out with your family for a two-person world?" "That's okay. Zhang Wanwan, no, think of us staying. The most reserved girl will be the first to show off. When we get the license and have a banquet, don't forget us sisters. When Ihan, Zhu Xian and Yimin come back, I will have a good talk with them, which will definitely make you bleed." "That's it." Yan Qian muttered to the side, getting more and more enthusiastic as she talked. Zhang Wanwan's cheeks turned red with embarrassment, and she begged for mercy. Finally, under Yan Qian's insistence, Zhang Wanwan agreed to invite them out for milk tea. The milk tea shops in the student street outside the school are all bad. Because they are located in a university town, the prices are not much higher. Zhang Wanwan can still afford a few cups of milk tea. The three of them left the dormitory and went straight to this student street. There were students and tourists coming and going. Many of them had a lot of big and small bags like Zhang Wanwan, but most of them were freshmen and not many old students. Someone as weird as her. They agreed to kill Zhang Wanwan, but we had been classmates for 3 years and knew the basics. We also knew that Zhang Wanwan's family was ordinary and even a little poor. Even if he drank milk tea, he would not choose the expensive one. The three of them casually ordered 3 cups and found a place to drink. "Sit down in a corner with a clear window." Yan Qian asked a little unhappily, "Are you really planning to abandon us and live together with Chao Jian?" Zhang Wanwan looked apologetic, "I want to be with you too, but you also know that we developed that project together. Jian said that we can save a lot of time by living together, and we have already decided to get married after receiving our diplomas, so." Zhang Xiyu frowned and glared at Yan Qian, then came to Zhang Wanwan's rescue and said, "Okay, this is a good thing. Since Wanwan has decided, you don't want to disturb others with your jabbering. Let's see what you do when Wanwan gets annoyed. Manage?" Yan Qian was furious, holding back her anger and said harshly, "If Chao Jian is really so good, why haven't I seen him yet? Today is the first day of reporting. Take a look at Wanwan's pile of luggage. This silly girl dragged her back by herself. This kind of boyfriend is not qualified at all. Wanwan, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't let that man take advantage of you without a marriage certificate. I'm telling you." "Yan Qian. Are you done yet?" Zhang Xiyu roared angrily and started to fight, and the two women struggled together. Zhang Wanwan, who was sitting opposite them, had changed her expression. Her mind went back to the previous time. An hour and a half before she got off the train, she called Chao Jian and asked him to pick her up at the station. The voice on the phone seemed a little embarrassed. Zhang Wanwan had always been sensitive and noticed that Chao Jian, after some hesitation, he said no need in an understanding manner, and trudged back alone, dragging a bunch of things. There was a moment when Zhang Wanwan suspected that Chao Jian had changed his mind and no longer loved her, but as soon as she returned to the dormitory, Chao Jian called to show concern and said that he was done with his work and could come pick her up. Zhang Wanwan began to blame herself again, feeling she shouldn't doubt Chao Jian's sincerity towards her. She was so entangled that she didn't let go until Yan Qian and the others came back. She didn't expect that Yan Qian would say these words so frankly at this moment, digging out the uneasiness in her heart and leaving her bloody. Put it in front of her. Perhaps it was because of Zhang Wanwan's silence that Yan Qian and Zhang Xiyu found it boring after bickering for a while, and were vaguely worried about Zhang Wanwan, so they all became quiet. Yan Qian, who has always been a carefree person, couldn't stand this dull atmosphere. He ignored his two roommates. Out of sight and out of mind, he was better off watching the handsome guys passing by outside the window. Zhang Xiyu also knew Yan Qian's temper. He curled his lips, stirred the milk tea in his hand out of boredom, and took several sips as if to vent his anger. Ah! Look! With a cry of surprise, all the milk tea in Zhang Xiyu's mouth was squirted out. Zhang Wanwan, who was sitting opposite her, unsurprisingly endured everything she shouldn't have to endure. Wanwan, I'm sorry. Let me wipe it for you. Zhang Xiyu stood up in a hurry, leaned over and pulled out a tissue, and greeted Zhang Wanwan casually. After a while, he realized that he was not satisfied. She saw Zhang Wanwan looking out the window as if she had lost her soul, and Yan Qian, the instigator, was silent, so she subconsciously turned her head. The scene outside the window made her pupils shrink and her mouth become O-shaped. It's not that I'm dazzled by that one. Zhang Xiyu blinked hard to make sure that he was not blind, then he became angry, threw the tissue in his hand, and shouted angrily, "Go and tear up those scumbags and bitches." Yan Qian came to her senses and immediately agreed with Zhang Xiyu. Before Zhang Wanwan came back to her senses, the two of them had already rushed out. Perhaps it was because all this happened so suddenly, or because of the inferiority complex deep in his heart, Zhang Wanwan suddenly became timid. She didn't dare to go out and face all this, so she just sat there blankly with empty eyes. There was already a noise outside at this time. Zhang Xiyu rushed out angrily and poured milk tea all over Chao Jian. The girl standing next to Chao Jian was affected, and screamed with shock and anger. The scene was chaotic. Chao Jian came to his senses and cursed angrily, "What do you two crazy women want to do? Chao Jian, open your eyes wide. If I don't vent my anger today for our family Wanwan and tear you apart, you two-legged scum, my surname is not Zhang." Zhang Xiyu put his hands on his hips and his cheeks turned red with anger. Yan Qian on the side shouted loudly, "Everyone, come and take a look. This is Chao Jian, a senior in the Institute of Information. He already has a real girlfriend and is hanging out with other women. He plays with women. His conduct is bad and his morals are corrupt. I am my aunt. You are ashamed of being in the same class as him. I will beat you to death, you shameless scumbag." End of chapter. Rebirth. I have a spiritual spring. Chapter 2, Revenge against the scumbag. Chapter 2, Revenge against the scumbag. As he spoke, all the milk tea in Yan Qian's hand was thrown on Chao Jian. Chao Jian was already on the verge of rage and might lose his mind at any time. The woman standing next to him stopped and cursed angrily, "Crazy. I'm wearing a famous brand, so you have to pay for me. You want to stand up for that poor family like Zhang Wanwan, right? Also, if she doesn't take a good look at herself in the mirror, is she worthy of Jian? She's not even worthy of carrying my shoes. To tell you the truth, Jian has broken up with her a long time ago, and we have already met her parents. They will get married, don't you think it's Jian?" Chao Jian turned to look at Yin Shiwei, the anger in his eyes suddenly turned into affection. "Shiwei, be good, go back and change your clothes first, I will take you out shopping later, just leave it to me." Yin Shiwei was obviously a little reluctant. She looked around and saw that there were many junior students around her. Everyone was pointing and pointing. In addition, she looked really embarrassed now. She could only stomp her feet unwillingly. She was cold. He snorted, held his head high, and walked away like a proud peacock. "Bah! What's the matter with a mistress?" Yan Qian's voice was loud, and Yin Shiwei, who had already left, turned around and gave her a hard look, and quickly left. Without Yin Shiwei, Chao Jian had nothing to worry about. He spat and said viciously, "Don't think I dare not hit women. Oh. I'm so scared. Hit me if you dare. Hit me as hard as you can. I want to see how bad this scumbag can be." Yan Qian crossed her arms over her chest, as if you can help her. The way I looked made Chao Jian so angry that he jumped up and down. "Okay. If you have the guts, just wait for me." Chao Jian put down his harsh words and looked around, seeing no one he knew except these two women. He felt relieved, turned around and ran away without looking back. Although he looked strong, he felt guilty. There is really no way to mess around with these two women. Don't leave if you have the guts. You scumbag. Yan Qian shouted angrily behind Chao Jian, feeling relieved after such a scene. Zhang Xiyu tugged Yan Qian's hand and stamped her feet. "Okay, let's go in and see Wan Wan. Wan Wan doesn't know how to feel sad after encountering such a thing." Only then did Yan Qian remember the client they had forgotten, and hurried back to the milk tea shop. There was no figure of Zhang Wan Wan on the seat near the glass window. "It's broken. Where did that girl go?" Yan Qian looked at Zhang Xiyu in shock. Zhang Xiyu panicked and said anxiously, "Don't worry about it, call Han and the others first, tell them about the situation here, and ask them to come back and find someone together. That girl Wan Wan is very sensitive. If she encounters this kind of situation, we still don't know how to get to the bottom of things, but it's better not to cause any trouble." "Bah, bah, crow's mouth," Yan Qian said and immediately rushed out. Zhang Wan Wan, who was being cared about by the two of them, was in a trance at this time. She didn't know why she ended up under Chao Jian's dormitory building. Her cell phone kept ringing. Only then did Zhang Wan Wan wake up. She turned her cell phone to silent and burst into tears. He looked up at Chao Jian's dormitory. After returning to the dormitory, Chao Jian was still cursing. He took a shower, changed into clean clothes and immediately called Zhang Wan Wan, preparing a bunch of lies to fool Zhang Wan Wan. When the call was connected, Chao Jian was stunned. "Jian, are you finished now? I just came back from shopping. Do we want to go out together now?" Zhang Wan Wan's voice was bright and brisk. Chao Jian relaxed and thought that the two crazy women hadn't informed Zhang Wan Wan yet. His voice became more relaxed and he said with a smile, "Yes, I'm done. Let's go out now. By the way, I just talked to you." There was a conflict between the two roommates. They seemed to have some misunderstanding. "If they tell you, don't believe it. I will explain it to you." "Well. I'll see you later. You can take me out for a ride on your bike." The voice on the phone was a little confused and a little cautious. Chao Jian's mind was filled with excitement and he agreed without even thinking about it. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Wan Wan quickly wiped away her tears and regained her composure. It didn't take long for Chao Jian to arrive. Chao Jian came from a distance on his bicycle. The wind blew his hair. He had a restrained and elegant temperament. Coupled with a handsome face, it was no wonder that even Hua Yin Shiwei was captured by him. Thinking about it, it's not a bad thing that a good-for-nothing like her can be favored by him. Zhang Wan Wan thought to herself mockingly. He tried his best to show his face and raised his head to meet Chao Jian, and sat on the back seat of the bicycle at Chao Jian's signal. Along the way, Chao Jian inquired about Zhang Wan Wan from time to time, but Zhang Wan Wan pretended to know nothing about it. After 2 or 3 times, Chao Jian gave up and believed that Zhang Wan Wan really didn't know anything about it. I took her to the park. The two of them were sitting on the grass by the lake. Zhang Wan Wan summoned up the courage to ask, "Jian, when are we going to look for a house?" Chao Jian was stunned for a moment, and then replied in embarrassment, "Wan Wan, I originally wanted to move out right away, but our project encountered some problems. The client said that some places needed to be rectified, and time was tight. At this time, I guess we don't have much time to look for a house. Do you think you should finish this project first? It will be easier to find a house after we get the final payment and have money in hand. Then we will have enough money and you can buy whatever you want, okay?" Zhang Wan Wan lowered her eyelids, raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and remained silent. Chao Jian frowned, feeling that she was ignorant, and advised, "You have to know that this is the first client we have finally negotiated with. If this cooperation cannot be completed satisfactorily, all the previous efforts will be in vain, you." "Okay, I'll listen to you," Zhang Yuanyuan said softly. "What?" Chao Jian was stunned. He didn't expect that Zhang Wanwan was so easy to talk, and all the words he prepared were in vain. Then he felt relaxed and stood up and said, "Okay. Just think about it. I'll bring the car over now. You etc." As soon as Chao Jian left, Zhang Wanwan's face instantly darkened. When Chao Jian brought the car over, he found Zhang Wanwan squatting by the water. "What are you doing?" Zhang Wanwan was startled, stood up and said in frustration, "Jian, I just accidentally threw the necklace you gave me into the water. Please help me take a look. I want to get it back." Chao Jisan felt cold and swallowed hard. The lake is so big and the depth is unknown. How could you find the necklace if it fell into it? He subconsciously wanted to refuse, but when he saw Zhang Wanwan's eyes that were on the verge of tears, he swallowed his words again. He could only put the bicycle away and put on a show. Just as Chao Jian was approaching the water, Zhang Wanwan quietly stood behind Chao Jian and pushed him into the water when he was not prepared. Unexpectedly, he also fell in due to inertia. Tourists at the lake were frightened and shouted for help. Zhang Wanwan in the water struggled desperately because of her survival instinct, and kicked Chao Jian below her to death, but finally sank. Before losing consciousness, he heard noisy cries for help from the shore. End of chapter. Rebirth, I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 3, Rebirth 2006. Chapter 3, Rebirth 6 years. It hurts. Zhang Wanwan opened her eyes faintly, her brain seemed to be split. She struggled and turned over. After seeing everything in front of her, she was completely stunned. Didn't she fall into the water? Could it be that he was rescued? But that was wrong, this was not a hospital at all, and the environment made her feel inexplicably familiar. Just as Zhang Wanwan was deep in thought, a familiar voice came from outside. "Wanwan, the porridge is in the thermos bucket. You can drink it when you wake up later. Mom will clean it up when you get back. It's too late for me to go to work. If you still feel uncomfortable, call Mom, Mom is leaving first." As soon as she finished speaking, there was a bang outside, a sound so familiar that it made Zhang Wanwan shed hot tears. She curled up on the bed and hugged herself tightly, murmuring, "Mom." If this was a dream, she hoped she would never wake up, but how could this be true? Her mother was diagnosed with cancer when she was in her freshman year, and her body was completely broken in just 1 year. Before she fell into the water, her mother was so weak that she could not speak. How could she be so angry? It seems that she also died with that scumbag Chao Jian. Thinking of that Chao Jian, Zhang Wanwan gritted her teeth, filled with hatred and regret. If she had known she would not be so impulsive, there are so many ways to take revenge on the scumbag, why can't she think of using this stupid method? Now that she is better, she can do it herself. Come in. She hasn't repaid her parents who worked so hard to raise her, and her elder brother who loved her so much. She should be sad to hear the news of her death. After thinking about it, Zhang Wanwan felt sad, buried her head in her legs and cried loudly. She didn't know how long she had been crying, but suddenly a deep and rich bell sounded outside. Zhang Wanwan raised her head blankly, her eyes swollen from crying were filled with astonishment. She had heard this sound for more than 10 years, and she would never remember it wrong. This is the old pendulum clock at home. I heard it was her mother's dowry. She has been surrounded by this magical sound since she can remember. She was often frightened to tears by this sound when she was a child. Later she got used to it as she grew up. However, her family's pendulum clock died when she was in high school and was sent for repairs. No, her mother put her away later. What's the situation now? Could it be that the pendulum clock is also a ghost? Zhang Wanwan was full of doubts and didn't care to cry. She got out of bed and ran out. Her room was facing the door of her home. There was a mirror behind the door. When she saw herself in the mirror, Zhang Wanwan was completely dumbfounded. A minute later, in the room, Zhang Wanwan's scream sounded. As soon as she finished shouting, the door of her house was banged, and a woman's sharp roar came from outside. Zhang Wanwan, what are you doing so early in the morning? How can you be so crazy when you are a big girl? You don't know the seriousness at all. Now. The little girl is really shameless. I tell you, when your mother comes back, I will talk to her and let her take good care of you, really. The cursing voice lasted for 10 minutes before going away. Zhang Wanwan was not angry at all, and even cried with joy. She was extremely familiar with the owner of this voice. It was Wang Chunhua, a 40-year-old woman who lived opposite her house. The women on the left and right, our home is in an old community. The old house has almost no sound insulation effect and the environment is poor. Most of the people who live here know everything about it. Everyone is used to leaving the door open during the day, so that neighbors can visit to talk. Women and the elderly like to get together and talk. The east is long and the west is short. Wang Chunhua is the leader among them. Whenever there is any disturbance in her home, the woman will pry her head out to inquire. Sometimes she even blatantly opens the door and comes in to watch the fun. She can tell everything that is missing so vividly that it seems to be true. Over time, her mother no longer opened the door, even if there was someone at home, he kept the door closed to save Wang Chunhua from gossiping. Maybe it's because her mother's approach made Wang Chunhua dissatisfied. Ever since her home had the habit of closing the door at any time, Wang Chunhua always disliked their home. If something happened, she would criticize her outside. Anything that interfered with her home would be dealt with as soon as possible. I went to her house to question her. Zhang Wanwan was so angry that she even contradicted her a few times before. Then Wang Chunhua was everywhere in the community. After hearing what she said about the little girl's sharp-tongued words, her mother got very angry. She confronted Wang Chunhua for the first time because of this. She was so angry that she smashed the iron door of Wang Chunhua's house. That time people in the community realized that her mother was not someone to be bullied and no longer dared to discuss the rights and wrongs of her family so blatantly. Wang Chunhua also gradually calmed down. Thinking of this, Zhang Wanwan was so sad that she wanted to shed tears. If her family hadn't been poor, others wouldn't have dared to bully her so blatantly. Also because her family was poor, her inferiority complex was deeply ingrained in her bones, so much so that the first time she found out that Chao Jian was cheating on her. Instead of rushing to question the thug like Yan Qian and the others, she lurks and waits for revenge. On the one hand, she envies Yan Qian and the others for being able to express all their joy, anger, sorrow, and joy on their faces, but on the other hand, she despises her own inferiority, darkness, and lack of courage. After being crazy for a while, Zhang Wanwan's heated mind calmed down and she looked around. In the small and dark 3-bedroom and 2-living-room suite, there was a set of old-fashioned solid wood tables and chairs in the living room of less than 10 square meters, which were all scratched. Half of the paint is peeled off. The more than 10-inch TVs that were popular in the 1980s and 1990s are still of good quality and can still play a few programs. The pendulum clock is placed next to the TV, and there are some large cardboard boxes piled in the corner. A lot of sundries, most of which are still useful, are piled outside the balcony. The ones placed there are those old cardboards that are not ready to be sold. The living room and the dining room are connected together. It is said that the dining room is actually just a garden wood table and 4 chairs, and there is no room. The kitchen is even smaller, and there is no space for 2 people to go in. There was no way to turn around. The bathroom was next to the door. It was not big either. The same was true for the 3 rooms. There was almost no extra space for a bed and a wardrobe. My brother and her had to squeeze in to fit a desk in their room. I put things on top of the wardrobe, under the bed, wherever there was space. She had a strong self-esteem and never brought her classmates to her home before. She always felt that such a family background would make her classmates look down on her and make her inferior. After high school, she went to a private school, and she rarely even came back. She always felt that the place was so depressing that it would suffocate her. But now she is greedy for everything in this house, even the old furniture that she hated most before feels so kind. After looking at everything in the house one by one, Zhang Wanwan finally laid her eyes on the calendar on the wall, which happened to be torn to the page of April Fool's Day, April 1st, 2006. Zhang Wanwan was stunned for a moment when she saw this day, and murmured to herself, "Are you trying to trick me?" Although she said this, Zhang Wanwan was very sure that she had indeed returned to the year of the high school entrance examination. The high school entrance examination would be in 3 months. They were the last high school entrance examination on July 1st. Since 2007, the high school entrance examination has become early June. Suppressing her inner excitement, she sat in the dining room and drank the porridge from the thermos bucket. End of chapter. Rebirth. I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 4, Be a Considerate Little Cotton-Padded Jaw. Chapter 4, Be a Caring Little Cotton-Padded Jacket. In the past, because her parents doted on her, she didn't get involved in anything at home. After eating, she would just put the dishes on the table and wait for her parents to clean them up. Her family never talked about her, and she took it for granted until she went to school. Only when you stay do you realize how useless you are. After laughing at herself, Zhang Wanwan got up and washed the thermos bucket and dishes. She also tidied up the room. By the way, she got familiar with everything in the house. She also mopped the floor. She also cleaned up the kitchen stove inside and outside. Yesterday the clothes that the family had changed were also washed. After finishing this work, Zhang Wanwan looked up at the clock. It happened to be 11:30. Her father usually comes into the house around 12 o'clock, and then cooks. When her mother comes back around 12:45, the family of 3 will have dinner. As for her brother, after he entered the second year of high school, because he had to study late at school, he simply now that she is living on campus, her high school coursework is heavy, and the school's conditions are better than those at home, so her parents won't let her brother come back. I couldn't help but get excited when I thought about meeting my father, Zhang Wanwan, who was several years younger. I went back to my room and opened the textbook, but I couldn't read it. I looked up at the clock from time to time. At 11:55, I heard a key unlocking the door. With a loud voice, Zhang Wanwan immediately put down her textbook and ran out. As soon as the door opened, Father Zhang saw his daughter leaning against the door of the room, breathing heavily. While changing her shoes, she said with a smile on her face, "You are hungry, girl. Dad will cook for you right away. Is your head still burning? If not, it's not burning yet. Come back and we'll go to the clinic later." With that said, Zhang's father put his bag on the ground and walked directly to Zhang Wanwan. Without any explanation, he put the back of his hand on her forehead, tested it, and breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's okay, the fever is gone. Let's go play, Dad. It's time to eat." Father Zhang turned around and went directly to the dining room. The refrigerator was placed next to the door of the kitchen. The old-fashioned refrigerator was only as high as Father Zhang's chest. The upper floor was the freezer, and the lower floor was the refrigerator. You had to bend down to find something. While Zhang's father was getting the ingredients, Zhang Wanwan went to the kitchen to put the rice soaked in the morning into the rice cooker, and then walked out quickly. Father Zhang carried the things into the kitchen. He was stunned for a moment when he saw the brand new kitchen. His eyes fell on the rice cooker with the light on. He opened it subconsciously and was horrified. He stuck his head and asked, "Girl, you cooked the rice?" Zhang Wanwan came running over, looking like she was begging for praise, and nodded cutely. Father Zhang asked again, "You can't clean up the stove as well, right?" Zhang Wanwan nodded again. "Okay. My girl has grown up and can work." Father Zhang gave Zhang Wanwan a thumbs up, picked up the celery, and quickly picked off the leaves. He looked like a veteran in the kitchen. Zhang Wanwan asked tentatively, "Dad, please teach me how to cook. I will cook for you in the future." "That won't work." Zhang's father said without thinking, "The high school entrance examination will be in 3 months. You should concentrate on studying. Your parents will worry about other things. By the way, if you are in good health, you can do your homework. Your mother has a day off tomorrow over the weekend. She said she would take you back to your hometown to pay homage to your ancestors and ask them to bless you with good grades. This trip lasts a day, and you have to go to school the day after tomorrow, so there is not much time for you to do your homework. Yeah. Zhang Wanwan agreed obediently, and went back to the room without saying a word, and opened the practice papers directly. Because the high school entrance examination was approaching, the teachers of each subject worked hard to give them practice papers. There were 2 papers for mathematics alone in 1 week, and there are physical chemistry 7788, which totals 8 papers. Zhang Wanwan took inventory and found that 3 of the liberal arts papers had been completed, and the remaining 5 were all for science. She breathed a sigh of relief. She liked studying and hated writing, and doing liberal arts papers was like killing her, so she assigned homework every time. They will take the liberal arts first after writing it, the pressure will be less. There are only a few knowledge points in junior high school. Although it has been so many years, the ideas for solving the problem are just those. It is easy for her. A math paper can be completed in almost 1 class. Finished writing. Zhang's father, who was cooking in the kitchen, came out and saw Zhang Wanwan concentrating on his homework. A fatherly smile immediately appeared on his face, and he continued to cook for Zhang Wanwan in a good mood. After Zhang Wanwan finished a math paper, Zhang's mother came back. When she heard the sound of opening the door, Zhang Wanwan immediately dropped her black pen and ran towards the door, shouting excitedly, "Mom is back." Zhang's mother was startled by Zhang Wanwan's enthusiasm. No, Mom is dirty. What's wrong? She also has a fever. Zhang Wanwan. Can there be some mother-daughter love? Father Zhang came out with the dishes and joked casually, the fever is gone, but there is something abnormal. I even cleaned the stove this morning. Your girl also made lunch. You can support me if you can eat it. It's rare for a girl. We can't dampen her enthusiasm, hee. Zhang's mother looked shocked, looked at Zhang Wanwan in astonishment, and exclaimed, "Don't burn out your head. You can also cook." Zhang Wanwan. Why is it so difficult to be a filial and considerate daughter? Seeing Zhang Wanwan's depressed face, Zhang's father stopped teasing her and said in a loud voice, "Okay, wash your hands and eat." Mother Zhang then went to the bathroom to wash herself briefly. The family is sitting at the dinner table. Mother Zhang took a mouthful of rice, nodded sharply and said, "Yes, she can cook well. I didn't expect my daughter to be so talented in cooking. I also think it tastes delicious. It's softer and glutinous than the one I made." Father Zhang commented pertinently. Zhang Wanwan rolled her eyes and almost rolled her eyes to the sky. "That's because I put down the rice and soaked it early in the morning." Father Zhang was not annoyed even when his daughter criticized him, he just laughed stupidly. After dinner, Zhang's mother asked Zhang Wanwan, "Did you do your homework today? Can we still go to our hometown tomorrow?" Although Zhang's mother thinks ancestor worship is very important, Zhang Wanwan's studies are more important. If she can't finish her homework, she won't go back to her hometown tomorrow. At worst, she can go back before Zhang Wanwan's high school entrance examination. Okay, I just made another math paper and 4 more papers. Give me 4 or 5 hours to finish it. I will definitely finish it before evening. With Zhang Wanwan's assurance, Zhang's mother instantly felt relaxed. She touched Zhang Wanwan's bangs with satisfaction and went to wash the dishes. Zhang Wanwan wanted to help, but then she thought that Zhang's parents and Zhang's mother would rather see her sitting in front of the desk with her buttocks hanging, so she obediently returned to the room. In the afternoon, Zhang's father and Zhang's mother went out to work. Zhang Yuanwan finished the remaining papers in one go and reviewed the important knowledge points of each subject. At about 6 o'clock, Zhang's father and Zhang's mother came back and Zhang Yuanwan had already swept away the papers on the desk. When I was free, I sat in the living room with my English textbook and memorized words and phrases. Zhang's father and Zhang's mother were overjoyed when they saw this. Normally, the couple would talk for a while when they came back, but today they silently shut up. One went to the kitchen to cook and the other went to the balcony to wash clothes. End of chapter. Rebirth, I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 5, Return to Hometown to Worship Ancestors. Chapter 5, Returning to Hometown to Worship Ancestors. Zhang Wanwan continued to hold the book and read bird songs that Zhang's father and Zhang's mother could not understand. Soon, Zhang's mother's exclamation came from the balcony. "Girl, have you washed the clothes?" Although the tone was questioning, there was no other idle person in the family except Zhang Wanwan. Who else could be there besides her? Zhang Wanwan nodded obediently and said, "I cleaned up the stove this morning and washed my clothes by the way. They are all mine anyway and they are not too dirty." Zhang's mother didn't even know what to say. The couple earned hard-earned money and came home all dressed up every day. Their clothes had to be washed immediately because Zhang Wanwan had a fever and sweated last night, so she changed into an extra set of clothes. She wanted to wash it now, but she didn't expect that girl to do it herself. Could it be that she suddenly became sensible after being ill? Zhang's mother couldn't understand it, and Zhang's father couldn't understand it even more. Fortunately, their daughter didn't do anything extraordinary and they didn't think much about it. Early the next morning, Zhang Wanwan was still lying in bed and Zhang's mother got up. The house was small and there was no sound insulation. The pots and pans in the kitchen were noisy. Zhang Wanwan couldn't sleep even if she wanted to, so she just got up and washed up. By the time she finished clearing the table, porridge and side dishes were already placed. Zhang's mother greeted her father and daughter to eat quickly. Zhang's father finished 2 bowls of porridge in less than 5 minutes. Seeing that Zhang Wanwan was still chewing carefully, he took out 5 yuan from his pocket and gave it to Zhang Wanwan. "Say hello, and burn some more paper money for your grandparents." Father Zhang talked a lot, and Zhang Wanwan could only nod dully. When she mentioned her grandfather, she felt a little depressed. Her grandmother died before she was born. When she was young, her parents had to work to make money, so she and her brother were taken care of by her grandfather. The older one had a very deep relationship with his grandfather. Unfortunately, the old man was a hard-working man and died before he could enjoy the blessings of many children and grandchildren. Since my grandfather died, Zhang's father and mother Zhang's mother borrowed money everywhere to give their brothers and sisters a better educational environment. They bought this house in the city and moved away. I will come back during the spring festival, but I will come back on the same day. It has been abandoned for so many years and there is no place for people to live there. After dinner, Zhang's father went out to work. Zhang's mother specially put on a pair of 80% new clothes and chose a youthful and beautiful skirt for Zhang Wanwan before taking her out with satisfaction. My hometown is Shiqiao village, a village near Qingpu, the county seat. From Puxi to Qingpu, I have to take a shuttle bus at the station. The traffic at this time is not as crowded as it was 6 years later. Not every household in a small city can afford a car. Most people still go out. Go to the bus station and take a shuttle bus. The shuttle bus back to the county town takes about an hour and a half. When you get to the county town, you have to ride a motorcycle back to the village. It takes almost 3 hours to get to your hometown. It's already noon when you get back. Zhang Wanwan didn't like going back in the past. She always felt that a trip back and forth would kill half of her life. After her rebirth, she was in awe of ghosts and gods. She always felt that her ability to live another life was the blessing of the Zhang family's ancestors. Not only was she not disgusted, but she was also extremely happy. When I go back next time, I must take a good look at my hometown, burn more paper money for my grandparents, and pay homage to the ancestors of the Zhang family, but I must be very pious. After squeezing at the station for a long time, the mother and daughter finally bought tickets and boarded the shuttle bus. Most of them were people from Qingpu. Listening to the familiar local accent, Zhang Wanwan had a satisfied smile on her face. Zhang's mother soon started talking to a passenger next door, talking about things in her hometown. Zhang Wanwan was bored and looked out of the car window, distracted. The bus was bumpy along the way. The people on it were swaying left and right, but the ticket collector stood still. It was obviously a result of practice. Zhang Yuanyuan glanced at it and couldn't help but admire it from the bottom of his heart. 6 years later, the national highway was rebuilt, and the bumpy cement road was all gone. Remake it into an asphalt road and you will never see a scene like this again. While she was thinking wildly, she had arrived at the county town. Mother Zhang pulled her out of the car and went to the market near the station to buy a bunch of fruit bread and jelly biscuits. She also bought several bundles of incense and gold and silver paper money. The two of them couldn't hold on until they were carrying large and small bags. They stopped a motorcycle on the side of the road and sped towards Shiqiao village. At this time, Shiqiao village was still a small village. Every household lived in a slate bungalow. Those who could afford it lived in slate houses on the second floor. Anyway, all you could see were slate houses and farmland. Even if they were not all slate houses, they were mixed slate houses. She didn't understand before, she always felt that it was dangerous to live in this kind of slate house. It would leak when it rained. It was not as good as the red brick houses built in the countryside in Puxi. When she grew up, she realized that it was because the village was close to the sea and there were only slate houses. Only in this way can we last longer in such an environment. Master Mo saw that he was the leader of each village. Mother Zhang only mentioned a place name, so he sent the mother and daughter directly to the door of their house. Zhang Yuanyuan paid the fare with the 5 yuan given by Zhang's father. Mother Zhang did not say anything. What? As soon as the two put down their things, an old man from the village came over with his hands behind his back and said, "Milan is bringing the child back to worship." Mother Zhang looked back, nodded and smiled, "Auntie, have you eaten?" Zhang Wanwan politely shouted, "Mother-in-law." The old man smiled kindly and said slowly, "I'm about to go back to eat." "You just arrived, why don't you go to my place to eat?" Zhang's mother quickly refused, "We ate on the way, so you should go back quickly." The old man didn't bother, turned around and left. Most of the elderly people in Shiqiao village live separately from their sons and make their own fires. The villagers are used to being frugal, especially the elderly people. Mother Zhang will never take other people's kind words seriously. Taking out a bunch of keys from her arms, Zhang's mother opened the door of the old house. My hometown is a small square yard, with a large courtyard in the middle and a well on the side. There are houses on all 4 sides. On the north side is the hall, which is connected to the room where the photos of the deceased elders are placed. However, this room is usually locked. It is open only when worshipping. On the west side is the kitchen and utility room, where firewood and farm tools used to be stored. The other 2 sides are sleeping rooms. There are 4 rooms in total. This kind of yard looks very good. In fact, it is nothing at all in rural areas. After the mother and daughter entered the house, Zhang's mother closed the courtyard door, so that the passing villagers would not have to come in to say a few words and waste a lot of time. Zhang Wanwan was very satisfied with Zhang's mother's actions. She couldn't bear to chat with the villagers. She mainly talked about what you were doing, how much your monthly salary was, how your children's grades were, etc. Their family was not in a good financial situation. It took so many years for my father and Zhang's mother to reluctantly buy it. The money for the house loan is still clear, and it is not an exaggeration to say that the family is impoverished. When it comes to money, Zhang's mother feels uncomfortable. When it comes to studying, Zhang Wanwan feels embarrassed. She said that she was lectured by outsiders, but she felt uncomfortable after talking about it. Feeling comfortable, just close the door and let both mother and daughter be quiet. End of chapter. Rebirth, I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 6, Spirit Spring Appears. Chapter 6, The Spiritual Spring Appears. Zhang's mother handed the keychain to Zhang Wanwan, "I'm going to fetch water. You open the house first and fold the gold and silver to one side. Don't get in the way here." Zhang Wanwan. Due to Zhang's mother's request, Zhang Wanwan pinched her nose and went to open the door resignedly. All 8 rooms in total were locked, so she simply tried one by one and opened all the doors. Zhang's mother brought the evening water and had just pulled off a dry rag to clean the stone bench when she discovered Zhang Wanwan's stupidity. She laughed and scolded, "I asked you to open the 2 rows of houses in the hall and kitchen, why are you going to open the door of the room? If you have nothing to do, go to work quickly and don't waste time." Zhang Wanwan looked strange when she saw the room she lived in when she was a child. She was yelled at by her mother and had to run back to the yard to work. She didn't know where she found 2 or 3 large baskets covered with dust. Zhang Wanwan sat in the bathroom. He folded gold and silver on the stone bench he passed. The sound of wood banging came from the room, and Mother Zhang's figure came in and out. Before Zhang Wanwan finished folding a basket, Mother Zhang had already laid out the items for ancestor worship. She lit incense and immediately called Zhang Wanwan to go over and worship. Wanwan looked at her hands covered with silver shavings and ran in without even bothering to wash them. She bowed respectfully to the ancestors of the Zhang family 3 times. Mother Zhang took the incense from Zhang Wanwan and bowed a few more times while mumbling something. Zhang Wanwan went out to continue working. After Zhang's mother paid her respects, the 2 coins she threw showed 1 head and 1 tail, so she immediately went to burn the gold and silver. Zhang Wanwan also breathed a sigh of relief. The gold and silver they bought could not be packed into these 3 large baskets. It would be dark if they had to fold them all. The place where gold and silver was burned was just outside the sacrificial room. There was thick smoke and heat waves. Zhang's mother asked Zhang Wanwan to go away. Zhang Wanwan wanted to help. She held the basket tightly and came closer from time to time. She didn't know if it was right. She was so nervous that after the gold and silver were burned, she realized that her finger had been scratched by the sharp edge of the basket. Mother Zhang looked at her hands, frowned and said, "I'll go to the village canteen to buy bundi. You go and wash your hands." After saying that, Mother Zhang turned around, opened the door and ran away. Zhang Wanwan frowned slightly and washed her hands obediently. Thinking that Zhang's mother wouldn't be back soon, she simply ran into the room and rummaged around. In her memory, her grandfather always kept tapes. In the past, people in the village were injured. Just stick it with tape and it will be done. There is no need to use bondi or anything else. No one has entered this room for many years, and it is so dusty that the original color of the furniture cannot be seen. The familiar bamboo bed is empty, except for the bed board. There is an old-fashioned table next to it, which can be seen from the style. Seeing that it was from the Republic of China period, Zhang Wanwan casually pulled out the top drawer and found that there were still some things in it, but most of them were used by his grandfather during his lifetime. They were worthless and no one would deal with them. In order to find some tape and avoid getting some dust, Zhang Wanwan could only pull out the entire drawer. There are 4 drawers on the table. The bottom is a 2-door cabinet that can be opened and closed. Generally, some larger objects are placed. Things like tape are definitely not inside. Zhang Wanwan didn't even open it, just stared at the 4 drawers. Huh? What is this? There were only a few small things in the antique drawers. What surprised Zhang Wanwan was that the innermost surface of one of the drawers was actually carved with a lifelike landscape painting. The gurgling spring water in the mountain stream seemed to be alive, and Zhang Wanwan was fascinated by it. Stunned, she blinked her eyes fiercely and looked over again. She realized that it wasn't her eyesight, but that the painting was really weird. If she looked closely, she could see that the wood on which the landscape painting was carved was different from the others, as if it was specially sticky. As if going up. Zhang Wanwan stretched out her hand curiously, trying to brush off the dust on it. A dazzling light flashed past. She was so scared that she subconsciously retracted her hand and looked at the painting again. This time, it didn't have that lifelike feeling, as if it was a painting. A pair of plain landscape paintings are carved above the drawers. What a ghost! Zhang Wanwan murmured, suddenly feeling a little cool in the house, and quickly put everything back in place. She couldn't find the tape and wiped a hand with dust. Looking at her fingers that were still bleeding, she really wanted to cry without tears. When I went out, I locked my grandpa's room. Not long after, Zhang's mother came back. When she walked in, she had a transparent plastic bag in her hand. At a glance, she knew it was 2 packs of instant noodles and 2 duck eggs. "Mom, is there bundi in the canteen?" Zhang Yuanyuan waved her paw in front of Zhang's mother. Mother Zhang took a breath of air and cursed angrily, "I told you to wash your hands, but have you gone to dig coal? You are so old and yet you are so worried." Zhang Wanwan sniffed, with a depressed look on her face, and waited for Zhang's mother to bring up another bucket of water before she came over and explained aggrievedly, "Mom, I washed it, otherwise the water you just left for me wouldn't be used by me. After running out, who would have thought that it would be like this after just one trip to the room? Okay, it's not like you didn't know the house was uninhabitable and you went inside, who's to blame? Zhang's mother scolded her while tearing Bundy apart. She waited for Zhang Wanwan to wash her hands before applying them to her. After looking for a long time, she couldn't find the wound. Where's the injury? Here. Zhang Wanwan handed her index finger to Zhang's mother, and then she realized that there were no traces on the tip of her finger except water drops, let alone a wound. Zhang Wanwan was stunned. Zhang's mother thought Zhang Wanwan was joking with her, but she could really see her daughter's fingers bleeding just now. The mother and daughter were both stunned. Mother Zhang was a cheerful person. She breathed a sigh of relief when she couldn't find the wound and said with a smile, I guess the bleeding has stopped. You can do it yourself. I'll cook for you. Zhang Wanwan was dumbfounded. Post. There must be a wound before it can be applied. Where should she stick it now? After thinking about it, I realized that Bundy had torn it open anyway, so I might as well stick it directly on the injured area without worrying about it. It has to be said that both mother and daughter are extremely generous in this regard. The kitchen still uses the big wood-burning stove, and the dishes and chopsticks are all in the cabinet. They can be used after cleaning them with dish soap. Mother Zhang casually cooked instant noodles and grabbed 2 duck eggs for their lunch. It was only past 1 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch, and they had to rush back to Puxi without stopping. After a day of tossing like this, Zhang Wanwan was completely exhausted when she got home. She lay limply on the bed and fell asleep listening to the noise Zhang's mother made in the kitchen. In her dream, Zhang Wanwan found herself entering the landscape painting. The gurgling spring was less than 20 meters away from her. There was also a stone tablet standing on the shore, with words engraved on it that Zhang Wanwan didn't recognize at all. Fortunately, every time there were small explanations in traditional Chinese characters next to the words. It was probably marked by someone later. Based on those traditional Chinese characters, she roughly understood the spring water. This spring is a spiritual spring. A drop of spiritual spring water can revive dead trees and make people live longer and free from all diseases. However, the spiritual power of the spiritual spring water is too strong and needs to be diluted before use. However, the spiritual spring water does not have the effect of immortality. The first owner was a carpenter during the Republic of China. After the carpenter died, the contract between him and Lingquan was terminated. Lingquan was directly attached to a landscape painting carved by the carpenter, waiting for the next person. I don't know who used the wood carving to make a drawer, so that it took almost a century for it to remain. She didn't even get to see the light of day, and some combination of circumstances took her advantage. End of chapter. Rebirth, I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 7, Cooking, Going to School. Chapter 7, Cooking and Going to School. Zhang Wanwan was secretly delighted. This dream was so beautiful, it would be great if it came true. Drowsily, Zhang Wanwan only felt someone calling her. Thinking of waking up, she immediately opened her eyes. She was stunned for a moment. Zhang's mother was already standing at the door of her room. Don't sleep. If you continue to sleep, you won't be able to sleep at night. Mom is out. Buy some groceries and go wash your face and wake up. Zhang Wanwan nodded blankly. Her heart was still pounding until Mother Zhang left. She casually tore off the bondi on her fingers. Staring at the flawless white fingers, she silently thought to herself that the water from the spiritual spring was coming out. Tiny lines immediately appeared on her hands. Dense water drops, and then recite the spiritual spring water stop. Those water drops immediately disappeared without a trace. It couldn't be more real. Zhang Yuanyuan cried with joy. She hugged the quilt and cried hard before she calmed down. Thinking that she couldn't let Zhang's mother notice anything strange, she immediately went to the bathroom. Took a shower by the way. When Zhang's mother came back, she had a lot of plastic bags in her hand. She said happily, I used to buy groceries in the morning. This is the first time I went to the market in the afternoon. I didn't expect that things are cheaper than in the morning, and I saved a few dollars. The market that Zhang's mother mentioned is newly planned. In the past 2 years, small third- and fourth-tier cities like Poo City have also begun planning. Houses are being demolished and built everywhere. The previously messy market stalls have been moved into the newly built market, and the market has been renovated. Stall fees have gone up, and vegetable prices have also increased a lot. Zhang's mother is a frugal person, so no wonder she was so happy when she heard such news. Zhang Wanwan felt sad when she heard that in her previous life, her parents worked hard to repay the money, and they frugally saved the money and finally paid it off. She was also burdened with heavy financial pressure because she was ignorant and had to go to a private school. When she was in her third year of high school, after finishing reading in 2008, Zhang's mother was diagnosed with cancer. The poverty of the family was even worse. Zhang's mother was worried about the monthly medical expenses. She gave up after a year and refused to go to the hospital again. She relied on medicine every month to survive. Even so, the family still owed a lot of foreign debt. For this reason, Zhang's mother became even more depressed. Her condition never got better but got worse. It became more and more serious. Thinking of this, Zhang Wanwan wanted to slap herself on the ear, and vowed to let her parents live a good life and enjoy happiness in this life. "Mom, let me help you make dinner. You have been running all day and you are tired. Go and have a rest." Zhang Wanwan stepped forward to pick up the things, but Zhang's mother did not refuse. She asked her to put her studies first. He was heavy, but he couldn't hold back his smile. He followed Zhang Wanwan to the kitchen without going to bed to see what she was doing. "I originally thought that my daughter, whose fingers were not wet with yang chun shui, could not even tell the difference between sugar and salt." Unexpectedly, Zhang Wanwan did not panic at all when she entered the kitchen. She first picked vegetables and washed vegetables, and then washed pots. She handled things in a very orderly manner. Mother Zhang was originally careless. "I have to pay attention to it now." Zhang Wanwan chopped the garlic cloves and green onion into small pieces and set them aside. Then she raised her head and asked Zhang's mother, "Mom, just stir-fry a plate of cabbage and a plate of chopped green onion and eggs, right?" Mother Zhang nodded, and she bought a cabbage, a handful of green onions and 2 duck eggs. Apart from making these 2 dishes, she couldn't make any other tricks. What surprised her was Zhang Wanwan's skill with the spoon. "Girl, have you sneaked into the kitchen before?" Mother Zhang asked curiously. Zhang Wanwan couldn't find a reason and could only nod obediently. Mother Zhang murmured twice, but finally said nothing. She just stood quietly outside the kitchen and watched. She reminded her of some things that Zhang Wanwan didn't expect, which was regarded as teaching her how to cook. Zhang Wanwan's back was turned to Zhang's mother. When she wasn't paying attention, she would secretly drop a small drop of spiritual spring water into the rice pot. Watching the spiritual spring water enter the pot, her heart also relaxed a little, thinking that it was so subtle. By completely transforming her parents' bodies, will her mother not follow in the footsteps of her previous life? Father Zhang came back just after the meal was finished. As soon as he walked in, he said with an exaggerated expression, "Huh? What delicious food is our family cooking today? I can smell it from downstairs." Zhang's mother spat at him and scolded him with a smile, "You are so sweet. Your daughter cooked today and she took care of the food. Go wash your hands and eat. Hey! My girl is awesome." Father Zhang gave Zhang Wanwan a thumbs up and happily went to wash his hands and eat. At first I thought Father Zhang was exaggerating, but Mother Zhang's face changed after taking a bite of the rice. She said in great surprise, "Why do I feel that today's rice is different? It's so delicious. The rice is still the same rice, and the water is tap water. It's the same pot, why is the taste so different?" Mother Zhang looked left and right, looking up and down, but she couldn't figure it out. Father Zhang said proudly, "Let me tell you, you still don't believe that my girl is amazing. I can't stop your mouth even if I eat." Mother Zhang gave Father Zhang a piece of cabbage and glared at him. She didn't say anything, but she acknowledged what Father Zhang said in her heart. I don't know if it was an illusion, but the couple had a dinner with Zhang Wanwan, and they slept very soundly. In the past, Zhang's mother had to get up twice every midnight, but this time she slept until dawn, and she slept so comfortably. If a person sleeps well, his temper will become better. Mother Zhang woke up early in the morning and was still humming while cooking. Zhang Wanwan was woken up by the pendulum clock outside. She looked at the time and it was only 6 o'clock. She wanted to turn over and go back to sleep. However, she couldn't sleep because there was too much noise outside. She could only get up, brush her teeth and wash her face. She also memorized Chinese and English and ate before 7 o'clock. After breakfast, I went out to school. It only takes 10 minutes to ride a bicycle from her home to school, and morning reading hasn't even started yet. Stepping into her familiar alma mater again after so many years, Zhang Wanwan was filled with emotion. She found her class according to her memory, but she felt embarrassed when she stepped into the classroom. She only remembered who her deskmate was and could not remember where she sat. "Where is it?" Just as she was hesitating about what to do, her deskmate rushed in a hurry. Feng Ying greeted Zhang Wanwan with a bright smile, "Good morning, beauty." Zhang Wanwan smiled helplessly and rolled his eyes at her. Feng Ying knew that Zhang Wanwan was thin-skinned and did not tolerate teasing, so she immediately gave in and dragged her back to her seat. Zhang Wanwan just followed her wishes and let her do whatever she wanted without saying a word. The two of them had just sat down when Zhang Wanwan and other male classmates around her came to ask her for their weekend homework. They also said bluntly, "Beauty Wanwan, please lend me your test paper to copy." Zhang Wanwan had no choice but to give it up. This situation exists in every school and every class, not to mention their junior high school, a public school in a designated area. The quality of the students coming in is uneven, and most of the good students are rare. There are 10 classes in one grade, and on average, less than half of the students in each class are studying. The remaining ones who are not studying make trouble for the teacher in class. Either secretly playing basketball or gathering in 2s and 3s to discuss cosmetics, making them look like glamorous bar girls. Expecting these classmates to do their homework is almost impossible. She knows that it is wrong to copy homework from others, but she doesn't. You would be stupid enough to refuse to offend someone. Anyway, the high school entrance examination will be held in 3 months. By then, everyone will go their separate ways and there will be no more intersections. It will be over if you tolerate it. End of chapter. Rebirth. I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 8, Grade 3 Teacher, Feng Ying. Chapter 8. The third grade teacher of junior high school, Feng Ying. Feng Ying was shocked when she saw Zhang Wanwan readily taking out the test paper for the male classmate. "Wanwan, you have changed your gender. Weren't you the most disgusted with others copying your homework before? Or you were of the opposite and inhumane? I used to talk to you on test papers but you won't give them to me." Feng Ying stared at Zhang Wanwan accusingly, making Zhang Wanwan dumbfounded. "Isn't this because I don't want to pester you? Believe it or not, if I tell you not to give it, they can ask the team leader to copy it later, but the result is still the same." Feng Ying choked. Thinking about it, those people are so wretched that there is no limit, and their skin is thicker than the city wall. Even if they are rejected, they will not understand. They will still go their own way, copying when they should, and they can find ways to copy even if they can't. They can definitely do it. Beyond their imagination. After a small episode, Zhang Wanwan's surroundings instantly became quiet. Of course, it's not that those classmates have become better behaved, but that 8 papers can kill them. If they don't work hard at this time, the class teacher can make them shed a layer of skin, and they are working hard. The few people in Bijishu just like liberal arts papers, as long as they are written in such a way that they look like they have some content. Those people stopped making trouble and Zhang Wanwan calmed down and continued to open the textbook and recite. Soon the head teacher came in with high heels. The head teacher is a newly married female teacher who is less than 30 years old. She has a good figure and average appearance. She wears a pair of thick glasses on the bridge of her nose. Her sharp eyes look like she has nothing to hide and hides no secrets. As if they couldn't help her, those who were still copying papers quickly put the papers in the drawer and began to work secretly underground. Ahem. The head teacher cleared his throat and lazily ignored the students who didn't study well. He glanced at the ceiling and said sternly, with a tone of arrogance and sternness, "The high school entrance examination will be in 3 months. The 9-year compulsory education will protect you at most. In the last 3 months, if you don't work hard, you will be out of society after the high school entrance examination. What can you do at a young age? Go to the construction site or become an apprentice? I have already mentioned the hardships, and I will not repeat the clichés today. You just need to remember that the reading test is for you and has nothing to do with the teacher. After 3 months, we will go our separate ways. I can't help you live well in the future. Zhangguang, it has nothing to do with me if you are not doing well. Why am I bothering you so much to urge you to study? I don't want you to follow a bright path. With a bang, the class teacher's teaching materials fell heavily on the podium, and she could be seen staring sharply at the boy next to Zhang Wanwan. The man was still copying with his head lowered, without any alertness at all. Zhang Wanwan really wanted to help her forehead. The head teacher roared, "Ding Junkai. What are you doing? Hand over the things on the table. You don't study all day, and you act like a little gangster. You think you can have any future, your parents are blind. The name you chose." Pfft. The whole class couldn't help laughing. Zhang Wanwan felt that the class teacher had a bit of a venomous tongue, but was inexplicably humorous, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. Feng Ying beside her was already lying on the table with a smile. Due to the presence of the class teacher, she did not dare to be too presumptuous, so she smiled and sat upright, returning to her good student behavior. Group. The class teacher waited for the class to quiet down before continuing. I don't care what you are like in normal times, but you have tightened your skin in the past 3 months. If someone's mock exam slows down the class, I will break their legs. Although it was a joke, the students couldn't help but feel their hearts twitching. The witch in charge of the class would not really hit them. As long as they gave them a few more papers and gave them detention or something, it would be enough for them to drink. As we digressed, the class teacher began to ask the class leader to organize morning reading, and took a few thorns to recite. Not surprisingly, those people were so serious that they couldn't even recite an ancient poem clearly. The better thing was that they could recite it in knots. Baba, not skilled at all, almost made the class teacher angry. As a result, their class became a beautiful scenery in the corridor during the first class on Monday. I saw a group of non-mainstream teenagers with mousse on their hair standing outside the corridor. They were holding textbooks in their hands and mumbling something, which looked weird. The class teacher was explaining the papers while looking outside from time to time. He felt it hurt his eyes no matter what. He was so angry that he shouted angrily, "If you let me see your hair standing on end again in the future, I will get a basin of hot water to pour it down for you." The good students burst out laughing again, while the male students who stayed in the classroom and put mousse on their heads wanted to get under the table, fearing that the class teacher would get mad and stab them. As soon as the bell rang, the noisy first period was finally over. Feng Ying breathed a sigh of relief, fell down softly, and complained feebly to Zhang Wanwan, "Why do I feel that my old class has eaten explosives today?" There was a dead face hanging as soon as he entered the door, and there was no smiling face in the whole class. Terrible menopausal woman. Zhang Wanwan was about to speak when she heard the movement on the other side and turned around subconsciously. She saw Ding Junkai rushing from the corridor to his seat like a wind and starting to copy papers blatantly. He almost cried, "Who arranged this? So much homework. Why don't you let me live? What if I can't finish it?" Seeing his miserable appearance, Feng Ying's spirit improved a lot, and she looked gloating. She teased Ding Junkai a few words before she said seriously to Zhang Wanwan, "My parents know the leaders of Yucai Middle School. As long as I get the score they set in the exam, you can go, Wanwan, your grades are so good, it should be no problem, and we can be together again when we both go to Yucai Middle School." Feng Ying thought very well, but Zhang Wanwan knew that this was not the case. In their previous lives, they had all been admitted to Yucai Middle School, but they were not in the same class. Feng Ying's family knew the leaders of the school, and her parents directly took her to the rich second-generation government. In the second-generation class, she had a new good friend. When she was a freshman in high school, they can still get together to talk every now and then. By the time they are divided into classes in the second year of high school, they rarely see each other due to the heavy workload. The friendship between girls is pure and fragile, and cannot withstand too many tests, especially the wear and tear of time. By the time they reach the third year of high school, both of them are fast. We no longer interact with each other, and we only occasionally say hello when we bump into each other on the road. Moreover, Feng entered a circle that was beyond her reach and became good at comparison. She had many petty thoughts of her own and only made friends with rich people. She would naturally gradually become alienated from friends with ordinary family backgrounds like her. It's just that they had agreed to go to Yutsai Middle School together before. Zhang Wanwan hesitated for a moment and nodded, but she made a decision in her heart. She would not go to that Yutsai Middle School, but she would not go back on her promise in front of Feng. This age children, your wife is immature and her worldview is very black and white. She won't care what your reasons are. She will only think that you have promised well but changed your mind at the last moment. There will definitely be cracks in the friendship between the two people. In the spirit of more, less is worse than less. Zhang Wanwan fell silent. End of chapter. Rebirth. I Have a Spiritual Spring. Chapter 9, Cousin Zhang Nini, exactly the same. Chapter 9, Cousin Zhang Nini, exactly the same. In the next month, she crazily made up for classes and reacquainted herself with junior high school knowledge. In addition to the homework assigned by the school teacher, she bought some additional exercise books. She stayed up late to read every day and would not go to bed before 11 o'clock. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to endorse. The hard work made Zhang's father and Zhang's mother very nervous. They cooked and cooked on tiptoe, not daring to make any noise. A month passed quickly, and the city mock test also came. On this day, Zhang's mother got up early to make food for Zhang Wanwan, and even cooked 2 hard-boiled eggs for her, saying it was good luck. Zhang Wanwan smiled helplessly and said, he ate it according to Zhang's mother's wishes and was released from the house. The city's mock exam was unified across the city, and all junior high schools were required to take it. The exam venue was also arranged by the Education Bureau. Zhang Wanwan was assigned to another middle school, and no one she knew in the exam room was there. Knowing this situation, she felt inexplicably relaxed. Finally, she no longer had to worry about those familiar classmates cheating by asking her to help deliver the answers. The 3-day mock exam ended quickly. The next 2 days happened to be weekends. Zhang Wanwan planned to go out and think about how to make money during the upcoming summer vacation. But before she even left the house, she received a call from her cousin Zhang Nini asking her to accompany her. Let's go to the bookstore together to buy teaching aids. Zhang Wanwan had no choice but to agree because she didn't want to give birth to other clues at this time. Her cousin Zhang Nini was the only daughter of her uncle. She was pampered and always felt that she was superior to her. She treated her like a maid since she was a child. In the past, Zhang Wanwan had a quiet temper and was not very good at it. Refuse, always it was Zhang Nini who said she didn't dare to go west. Seeing that she was easy to bully, Zhang Nini got even more aggressive. It wasn't until Zhang Nini went to Yutsai Middle School from high school that she was relieved. But everyone was in Puxi. Although the parents of the two families didn't move around, it didn't stop Zhang Nini from finding opportunities at all. She was unhappy. Perhaps it was because the eldest aunt and her mother gave birth in the same year, and one gave birth to a daughter and the other a son. The eldest aunt always disliked their family, while Zhang Nini liked to compare her brother and sister. New Year's money, if it gets bigger, is more important than grades and famous brands. In short, she will use all means to trample their brothers and sisters under her feet, as if this can give her a deep sense of superiority. Thinking of Zhang Nini's virtue, Zhang Wanwan went out wearing her school uniform. In 2006, there were not many schools with uniforms for junior high school students. Their school was one of them. However, the uniforms were distributed at the bottom of the box and were only worn during school sports meets or when leaders inspected them. It would come in handy because the city mock exam had just passed and her school uniform had not been confiscated after washing, so it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary when she wore it. The two met at the door of the student bookstore. Zhang Nini was obviously well-dressed and wore a pair of high heels. When she saw Zhang Wanwan's school uniform, she was immediately dissatisfied. She frowned and said, "Why are you so tacky? You're still wearing school uniform after the holidays, isn't it embarrassing? Or is it true that Auntie is too poor to buy you clothes? Stay away from me after you go in. After saying that, Zhang Nini tossed her long hair and entered the bookstore with her arms crossed proudly. Zhang Wanwan followed with a sullen face and went in without saying a word. After entering the bookstore, she did not look for Zhang Nini, but walked towards the direction of the junior high school teaching assistant. The high school teaching assistants are on the second floor, one on the east side and the other on the west side. When Zhang Nini arrived at the high school teaching assistant's place, she looked back and saw that Zhang Wanwan had also come up but was walking in the direction of the junior high school teaching assistant and did not come to her at all. This made her feel a little unhappy. She snorted coldly and decided not to pay any attention to her. Zhang Wanwan. Zhang Wanwan completely ignored Zhang Nini and focused all her attention on the rows of teaching aids. Nowadays, schools generally use more teaching aids in the teaching version. She wanted to see other versions, especially composition books and English modules. She is still relatively weak in liberal arts and needs to make some more sprints. In her previous life, she took the entrance examination for Yutsai Middle School but failed to take the high school entrance examination. It is a pity for her. She must do well in this life. Take the exam and get a good grade. When Zhang Wanwan was distracted, Zhang Nini's arrogant voice suddenly sounded behind her, "Are you a fool? Why are you standing there? Hold it for me." Zhang Nini couldn't help but put the book she wanted to buy into Zhang Wanwan's hand, and kept talking. "I'm not talking about you, but given your family's situation, do you have the money to send you to Yutsai Middle School? The tuition there is 1 per year. Wanwu, there are other miscellaneous expenses, can your family afford it? My mother said that when I go to college, she will contact foreign schools to let me study abroad. Well, it would be great if you can go to a third-level university in China. Let me tell you, high school is not as easy as junior high school. Your brother's grades in junior high school were very good. I heard that it is difficult to even go to university with his current grades." Blah, Zhang Nini knew the more she spoke, the more angry Zhang Wanwan grew. Before she could finish speaking, she put her books on the bookshelf and turned away. "Take your own things." Zhang Nini paused and looked at Zhang Wanwan coming downstairs in disbelief. Then she reacted and became angry. She poked her head through the fence on the second floor and roared at Zhang Wanwan who was paying downstairs. "Zhang Wanwan. You can do it now. Wait for me." No matter how Zhang Nini scolded her, Zhang Wanwan ignored her, carried the book out of the bookstore, and started walking around several busy pedestrian streets in the city's commercial districts in search of business opportunities as originally planned. Over there, Zhang Nini went home filled with anger. Not long after she entered, Huang Guilian came back. Seeing her baby daughter sitting on the sofa and sulking, she asked worriedly, "Didn't I say I was going out to buy books? What happened again?" Zhang Nini felt aggrieved and pursed her lips and said, "Mom. That Zhang Wanwan is so brave today. She dares to sneer at me and refuse to help me get the book. Why is she a poor girl? I asked her to help me. Holding a book is already a compliment to her." Huang Guilian's face changed, and she said displeased, "I told you not to deal with that poor family, why are you disobedient? Demote yourself. Who are you? Why do you care about that kind of ignorant little farmer? Just this time take this as a lesson and don't go looking for Zhang Wanwan again." After saying that, Huang Guilian was about to go to the kitchen in frustration. Halfway there, she turned back and warned Zhang Nini, also. "Don't let your dad know what happened today. You are not allowed to mention that family in front of your dad in the future. Unlucky. Mom. Are you still my biological mother?" Zhang Nini was furious. She thought that after she complained to her mother would stand up for her, or at least complain to Zhang Wanwan's mother or something. However, it turned out that she was yelled at in the face. She was so upset that Zhang Nini was so angry that she took her bag and slammed the door. Huang Guilian chased her out and saw that Zhang Nini had disappeared, so she shouted from the window, "You must be back before 8 o'clock, or I will let your father teach you a lesson." After saying that, Huang Guilian also closed the window tightly. The mother and daughter were almost equally arrogant in their little tempers. End of chapter. Rebirth. I have a spiritual spring. Chapter 10, I want to take the entrance examination. Chapter 10, I want to take the entrance exam for number 1 middle school. Neighbors nearby heard the commotion and looked over, seeing that it was Huang Guilian's family making a fuss. They curled their lips, peeked at the excitement for a while, and then stopped. That family was on government pay, and they made more noise than others when talking and doing things. They didn't want to be in vain. Got into trouble for no reason. When night fell, Zhang Wanwan returned home. To her surprise, her brother Zhang Baiyan also came back. "Brother, don't you have to make up classes this week?" Zhang Baiyan's eyes noticed the bag Zhang Wanwan was carrying, and he said with a smile, "I have to make up classes, and I will go home after class. I have a day off tomorrow." "You just finished the city simulation test. How do you feel? Are you sure?" Zhang Wanwan nodded and nudged to Zhang Baiyan's side coquettishly, "Your sister is so powerful, don't worry, I will definitely work hard to get into number 1 middle school this time." Zhang's father and Zhang's mother, who listened to their brother and sister's words with open ears, were suddenly stunned and looked at each other, speechless for a moment. Zhang Baiyan raised his eyebrows and said suspiciously, "Didn't you say you wanted to apply for Yucai Middle School before? Why did you suddenly change your mind? Wasn't that a hothead before?" "I went to the bookstore with my cousin this afternoon. She said some unpleasant things, but although they were unpleasant, they made sense. The annual tuition for a private school is 15,000, and there are some for other expenses. It is impossible not to cover 20,000 yuan a year, and the teaching staff is also it's not as good as number 1 middle school. I didn't have confidence in myself before, and I didn't want to be separated from my friends. Now I don't think it's necessary. It's not hopeless if I work hard. In the worst case, I can go to number 4 middle school to hang out with my brother, who will protect me. No one dares to bully me." Zhang Wanwan said half jokingly and half seriously. Sensing that the house was unusually quiet, Zhang Wanwan looked up and saw that Zhang's father and mother were looking at her with relief. Zhang Baiyan thought for a moment and agreed, "That's right. It's a pity that I didn't get into the number 1 middle school. My sister worked hard to study hard. Work hard and make those guys look down on you." Zhang Boyan didn't say who it was, but the three of them thought of Zhang Nini's family. Mother Zhang was afraid that Father Zhang would be embarrassed, so she greeted with a smile, "Okay, now that you're back, wash your hands. There are so many people waiting for you to eat alone." Upon hearing this, Zhang Wanwan jumped up from the chair and went straight to the kitchen. After washing her hands, she lifted the lid of the pot and poured a drop of spiritual spring water into it while no one was paying attention. Zhang Boyan just happened to come back and also transform his body. During the meal, Zhang's father asked about Zhang Baiyan's study status. Although he only had a primary school education, it did not prevent him from understanding some substantive issues. Zhang Wanwan thought of Zhang Baiyan in her previous life. Her brother was good at studying, but he was just a little worse than her. He was 2 points short of the high school entrance examination and failed to get into number 1 middle school. He had to go to number 4 middle school, which was worse than number 1 middle school, and became a chicken head. The whole high school was number 4 middle school was doing well, and his academic performance was also good. Logically speaking, he would have no problem getting into a bachelor's degree. However, he had a fever during the college entrance examination and was completely out of shape. He barely managed to survive, and in the end he only went to a junior college. Perhaps it was because he failed in the college entrance examination, and he didn't want to repeat his studies to increase the burden on his family. He was depressed and lost his fighting spirit. As if he had accepted his fate, he graduated step by step and then went out to find a job with an average salary. Zhang Yuanyuan's salary before her rebirth was that of her brother. It's only over 4,000 a month. It's hard to support himself, let alone send money home to buy medicine for her mother. The burden on his shoulders is so heavy that it almost crushes him. He doesn't dare to find a girlfriend outside the society. Now Zhang Baiyan is still a vigorous and ambitious young man, and there is still time for everything. Thinking of this, Zhang Wanyuan said to Zhang Baiyan, "Brother, I have a plan and I need your help, but I can't tell you now. When I take the high school entrance examination I'll tell you later. Zhang Baiyan thought Zhang Wanwan was asking for a reward from him, because Zhang Wanwan never made excessive demands. Zhang Baiyan agreed happily. When he later found out what Zhang Wanwan's plan was, he was so frightened that he almost lost his mind. He regretted being the meanest person before. Respond too quickly. Zhang's mother said with a smile, "What is so mysterious that even we can't talk about, but then again, when will the results of your mock test come out?" Zhang's mother also thought that if Zhang Wanwan's grades were not good, she would go to other Confucius temples to worship, and she would have to seek blessings from the gods no matter what. Zhang Wanwan was well aware of her mother's urine nature, so she quickly replied, "It will be announced next Wednesday, and our city ranking will also be announced. It will be clear then." The high school entrance examination is generally ranked within a city. You can also know where your own level is based on the ranking of the mock test. After hearing this, Mrs. Zhang fell silent immediately. The family sat in the hall talking after dinner. The small hall seemed crowded with 4 people sitting there. They had to avoid the toilet when they got up. Zhang's father and mother, Zhang Baiyan, were all used to it, but Zhang Wanwan felt sad. Because they were poor, they didn't dare to have extravagant hopes. For a better living environment, I always feel that having a house like this is enough. Zhang Baiyan noticed Zhang Wanwan's strangeness and looked at her questioningly. Zhang Wanwan smiled and shook his head, focusing on the TV program. Because Zhang Baiyan was at home this weekend, Zhang Wanwan directly moved her exercise book to do it with Zhang Baiyan. The brother and sister lived in a small room, but they were surprisingly harmonious. They were both busy and exchanged a few words from time to time. Time passed faster. "Little sister, you have thought about it. Do you really not want to go to Yutsai Middle School? After all, there is one more opportunity. If you pass, you will have other choices." Zhang Baiyan always felt that Zhang Wanwan gave up this opportunity because of money. He felt sorry for her in his heart, but he was helpless. He couldn't think of any other way except studying harder. Zhang Wanwan shook his head seriously and answered the question casually while doing the exercises, "I won't go there even if I get admitted. The money is one thing, and the other is because I really think number 1 middle school is better. I was not sensible before, and in my heart I just want to be with my good friends. Now I won't be so naive. I will definitely go to number 1 middle school this time." Zhang Wanwan's firm tone shocked Zhang Baiyan, and then he said calmly, "Now that you have set a goal, you have to be even more angry. The students who can go to number 1 middle school are all students with extremely good grades. The competition is not ordinary, but I support you." Zhang Wanwan gave Zhang Baiyan a bright smile, lowered her head and continued to do the exercises. When she encountered any doubtful questions, she would ask Zhang Baiyan for advice. Perhaps she was infected by Zhang Wanwan's hard work, and Zhang Baiyan was more serious than usual. Both of them were studying all day. Struggled in the sea, almost to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep, Zhang Boyan was surprised to find that his sister was smarter than he thought. Although she had not yet touched the knowledge points in high school, she knew how to draw inferences from one example. Those knowledge points that he found difficult to understand suddenly became clear to him after communicating with Zhang Wanwan, and he understood them in one day. Digested many key and difficult points that were not mastered proficiently. End of chapter.